Hello, dear friends. Here we are at Kardec Radio at 11 p.m., nourishing our souls together. It is a joy to be back with you after days in which we were not able to be here. But thank God and to the friends, Carol Correa and Marco Magalhães, we continue the beautiful studies on the Illuminated Prayers. What a joy! And they did a wonderful work, as you know. And we kept studying the Illuminated Prayers by Andrea Lewis. What an inspiration for us, right, friends? The books that were psychographed by Chico Xavier are true blessings for us. In this break that we had, we were doing a research that soon will be published at the Spiritist magazine, and visiting several people who actually knew of Chico Xavier very closely, and visiting centers, the places where he lived, the places where he, the centers that he found. We realize that people are yet to understand the greatness of the Spiritist medium, our dear Chico Xavier. It's really unbelievable. Something to be revisited, and in Chico Xavier's mediumship we find the true Spiritist pathway. We need to go back to the roots of simplicity and true fraternity. Our dear Chico Xavier lived a legacy and a life that is yet to be understood. We think we do now, but we are yet to understand. And in books such as Action and Reaction, we are going to find the greatness of these spirits that came through Chico Xavier. It's God's mercy on earth to bring books like this. Visiting several Spiritist centers, I've heard people talking about new books that are being released. It's great. But you know, these books are the greatest. They are the greatest. Why? Because of the depth, the purity, and the life of the one that brought it to us, Chico Xavier. So in the next issue of the Spiritist magazine, we'll be unfolding to you much of what we have discovered, okay? And we're very thankful to Carol Correa and Marco Magalhães for the beautiful, loving, devoted works that they've done. It's a beautiful teamwork, and I'm glad to be back. I was always praying to God. I look forward to going back to our dear harvest of the good, and here we are. It's good to see you friends coming along and joining us. Missing you, Paula. Big hug to you and Tony. Daisy, a super hug to you. Teresa Castro, I missed your birthday, but here it is. Happy birthday to you, Teresa. Welcome. Joyce, you and your family, super duper hug on you guys. Nora Brazil, how have you been? Sol, hello Sol Souza, thank you for your kindness. Big hug to Luana. John Da Rosa, missing you too. How have you been? Renata, super hug to you and Maxi. Carmen Silveira, how have you been? Matthew Mills, welcome. Karina Alice, always with us at Kardec Radio, doing beautiful works, making it possible for people to listen to these programs on demand. Thank you, Karina, for being with us at Kardec Radio's team. Annie Mercia, super hug to you. Yes, Christiane Henderson. Today we're studying chapter 13 of the book Action and Reaction. There's a beautiful case and a beautiful prayer, and it's very inspirational to all of us, okay? Fernanda, big hug to you, and João, super hug. Ready? In the book Action and Reaction, Many people ask, Vanessa, which books do I read? And people search for new books. As Paul of Tarsus said, it's important to read it all and extract the good. But no doubt that in Chico Xavier's mediumistic books, we're gonna find the real deal. Beijocas to you, Fernanda. Hello, Adilson. How have you been? Bettina from South Carolina. Really? Is there a group there, Bettina? We hope so. So the book Action and Reaction was psychographed when? In 1957, when the Spirit's book turned 100. If you're in Brazil, we would recommend that you watch the movie Kardec. We were there, we were able to watch it on the very first day, and I tell you, in spite of it all, it's a masterpiece. And it brings to the core of ourselves the beauty of the struggles and the genius behind Kardec and his wife, Amélie Boudet. The movie made justice to the life of the couple that brings new life. Bettina, no group yet, but here at Kardec Radio, we're cheering for you and everyone who will join you, right? So, as André Luiz and Emmanuel tell us about the reason why this book came to life. Why? Cutting short, as Emmanuel says, in short, the author shows us that our current possibilities are linked to the darkness of our past, demanding tireless work for the good, for the construction of tomorrow upon the redemptive foundation of Christ. Friends, sincerely, it wasn't easy for Jesus, our governor. Why would it be easy for us? So if anyone is trying to find a shortcut, it doesn't exist. Life is as it is. We have to work on it and to struggle and to sweat, and we're gonna cry, but it's part of our growing process, okay? If we're expecting something easy breezy lemon squeezy, easy breezy lemon squeezy, easy peasy lemon squeezy, however we want to say it, it doesn't happen. When we're doing the good, it's labor intensive, but it's good way, a good labor. It's good pain, quote unquote. Okay? Are you ready for today? It's a beautiful chapter. It's chapter 13th, That at a Standstill. What is it? So here we have Silas, the assistant Silas, okay? And we have André Luiz and others in the team. They are visiting. They are at a particular location, and in a room there is Pollyanna, who is in need of help. So I'm not gonna read the chapter because it's not that it's long, but it's not productive to read it all. But I'm gonna read some excerpts and talk about it, and then we'll merge to the prayer. Ready? Okay? We would recommend during this time, I know it's hard to pay attention while we're browsing, watching this and doing that, but let's make this an exercise of mind over matter, mindfulness, you and I, all of us together, feeling ourselves in a beautiful classroom, and all the spirit teachers with André Luiz and Emmanuel, Chico Xavier, leading us into this. This is a beautiful painting that a mediumistic painting that our dear Geraldo Lemos Neto offered to us, also to inspire you at Kardec Radio. So visualize Chico Xavier with us. Silas received a visit in the parlour from a troubled co-worker. So a co-worker comes, and the co-worker is really worried about Pollyanna. And then Silas patiently asked, but is Pollyanna being rebellious? And the co-worker of the hospital said, no, but she is ill and her physical strength is declining by the hour. But in spite of it, she has been fighting bravely to stay by her unfortunate son's side. So Silas immediately said, there's no time to waste. Pause for a second. You and I are here now. And we think that there's nothing above us, right? Well, there's a roof. But beyond the roof, what is there? Our protecting spirits. Superior minds. Their task is to love us, to care for us, to protect us. And they are right now meeting, talking about our lives, finding ways to stimulate our growth, to take care of our issues. How often do you feel that protection, my friends? How often? When problems come, or we get to know of our problems, we're like, oh my gosh, yes, 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 for a second. But then immediately after I recall, well, God is the supreme intelligence, the love of all love in the universe. God is taking care of us. God already knows the solution, the pathway, the way out. We breathe in and out and feel at ease. The beginning of this chapter, though it talks about something not very comfortable, it's somebody who is really somewhat at a standstill in the debt, but he begins in a very positive way, showing to us how the superior minds are constantly taking care of us. Beautiful, beautiful, right, Celia Lancaster, Angelita, right, friends? So here we have, in this beautiful chapter, when they volatilized to save time, they volatilized at a poor, desolate, rural setting, a shack. They get there, and the description by André Luiz is like the worst in terms of what's happening there. There is a woman who is in rags, laying on a straw mat on the floor, almost like those whom Angelita and other friends from Fraternity Without Borders find daily in their expeditions. People like this, suffering to the max. And then a few feet away, there was a paralytic, mentally impaired dwarf. And the sick woman was gazing at this little one in affliction and despair. And then Silas tells André Luiz, this is our sister Pollyanna and Sabino. Spiritually, they are both wards of mansion, and they are on a harsh pathway of readjustment. Pause. Our miseries today, what are they? Constructions of yesterday, but educational adjustments for our souls. From the past to the present into the future, we have educational moments. No wonder Spiritism came through the educational hands of the educator Allan Kardec in partnership with his wife, who is also an educator. Without education, we cannot create new habits. This is a comment by Kardec in one of his questions. Education is the sum of new habits. We are not going to evolve if we don't create new habits. Which means staying in the comfort zone is bad for us. I know all of us dream about easy life, but easy life doesn't get us anywhere. Anywhere. Does that mean we're going to pray for a hard life? No. We're going to pray that we learn the lessons, even in the apparent easy life, because in actuality, there's no easy life. Even for those who have material comfort, there's a lot of struggles. That we find the lessons in each and every moment of our lives. Because when we do, we are awakened. We are paying attention. We are not in the old. We're open to the new. So in the next 24 hours, to avoid staying at a standstill, let us ask one question in the next 24 hours. What is the new that I don't know in this situation that I'm living in now? In the next 24 hours, let us do this exercise, friends, together. Wherever we are, let us ask ourselves, what is the new in this current circumstance that I may learn and boost, propel myself to a new moment, okay? That's our exercise for the next 24 hours. So Silas is explaining to us and to André Luiz that this is really serious. Pollyanna, the mother, is suffering from heart disease. And at any minute, her heart could stop. So the spirits say that she cannot die yet because not only her, but her son needs more time on the flesh, needs more time doing, to do what he needs to do, to leave that experience of impairment, of restrictions and limitations. So they're going to help her. And they're going to talk about a previous life. A life in which both Pollyanna and her son were truly materialistic, but to the point that Pollyanna in another life was the one who was always inciting the current son, but in that life a partner, to do wrong things, mean things, materialistic actions that would also deceive people, cheat on people, etc. Lives after lives, not only one life. So Silas says, if the mother discarnates right now, it would have a fatal repercussion on her son. His existence at this stage of the segregation he has been confined to invariably gravitates around his mother's tender care. So Pollyanna was there laying down, and our dear Silas, together with André Luiz and others, they do a treatment, like passes treatment on her okay? And we're going to talk about the prayer very soon. But before I do, I want to expose our thoughts a little more regarding the behind the scenes of that expiation. Before I talk about the prayer and the effects, let me just read this to you. And forgive me for just giving a short pause. Sabina was there, very small. But the assistant Silas urged Andre Luis and others to examine the mental field of Sabino. And in just a few minutes, we were focusing closely, and Andre Luis was able to access it and observe his peculiar reminiscences. Sabino's memory showed that it was living far removed from present-day reality, immersed as it was in totally strange scenes. Sabino's thoughts took on consistency as they materialized to our spirit sight, enabling us to see him as he felt himself to be. We saw Sabino in the trappings of a prominent courtier, influencing well-positioned individuals to commit secret crimes that always resulted in the intense suffering of the common folk. Widows and orphans, humble workers and wretched slaves paraded on the screen of his complex memories. Aristocratic palaces and lavish tables were part of the ostentation details of the memories populating his mind, and by his side, always the same woman whose proud bearing revealed Pollyanna, the same Pollyanna now laying motionless on a mat of straw. We're stunned to see them both surrounded by luxury and gold, but also stained with blood to which they were completely insensitive. It was easy to see that both Pollyanna and Sabino had heavy mutual debts to pay for in the realm of cruelty. Sabino was an arrogant nobleman completely unaware of the Sabino paralytic dwarf. In total introspection, Sabino kept reliving his past at the deepest level of self-absorption, showing that he was a man deluded by false superiority before his fellow beings. Pause. You know, there's so much to extract from it. In the Spirit's Book by Kardec, we learn that pride and selfishness are the worst vices from which derive all the others. But we never understand sometimes what this means. In the story of Sabino, we're going to rescue the true meaning of it all. Just for the part that we read, there's something quite interesting that we need to observe. And it may happen to you and to me at any given time in one reincarnation. Freud said to us, and then later psychoanalysis developed even deeper the concept of our unconscious. Our unconscious is the greatest part of us all. We in Spiritism understand what it means. We're not simply the appearance or this current personality. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And what we can remember or what we know of ourselves. Like Sabino, many of us may be living a life right here. But inside of our hearts, we are still stuck in lives in the past. And then our lives in the current are stagnated. No job. Our things don't move forward. And we're like, oh my gosh, why is it happening? Because our mental field is stuck in that previous life. Or in a previous life. In a moment in which we were feeding the true ego, which is not the current personality simply, but that passing illusion of the self. It's when we feel multiple personalities, conflicted, like we know what is right to be done, but part of us is still willing to go back to the same old conditionings. And God is so wise that through the hands of loving workers, superior spirits, they create situations to block us from incurring the same debts, because we've done once and twice and 3 times and 4 times. And sometimes we're like, oh, this time we won't do it again. But as good educator, God says, just stay there. It shall pass. But right now, I cannot give you what you want, because you will fall back. That's what happened to Sabino. Sabino was for us, we would look at him, he's impaired, mentally impaired, physically impaired, harmless, but spiritually dangerous. That's what André Luiz reveals to us, using this very word, dangerous. Let's check it out. Silas remarked, of course we cannot hear Sabino's articulated words because he's completely hearing and speech impaired at the moment, but we can address him in thought. Aha! This chapter also reveals to us new ways to treat people who are in this scenario. You see how on earth we are yet to develop this all. There is one organization in Brazil, Casas André Luiz, in São Paulo, that actually work in this fashion. They talk to the spirits of people who are physically totally impossible to be communicated with, spirit to spirit, and do therapies, disobsessions, etc., with great rate of success in so many ways. And you're right, Carol. It's beautiful indeed. Right, Daniela Souza? Right, Aiden? And he says here, he can react in thought to our questions, but to do so, we'll have to treat him like the personality he thinks he is, still living. We'll address Sabino as Baron of S. They don't reveal it. His title during his last lifetime, during which he strayed ruinously in the darkness of crime and vanity. How many people live in this life and they don't feel as is, they still feel like they were in a particular lifetime. They haven't reincarnated. To reincarnate, we really need to begin anew. We really need to renew ourselves. How many of us are not fully reincarnated? Are you reincarnated? Because when we're longing for something and things that are not happening, we're not reincarnated. We're rebellious. No wonder Jesus said, blessed are the meek, not the rebellious. Meek, meaning the ones who understand and accept and are not like, oh my gosh, life is so tough, nothing's like I want, blah, 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 blah. And they are rebellious against those, very envious of those who have big businesses, lots of money, or beauty, or whatever it is, longing for something. When do we know we are well reincarnated? When do we know? When? One great sign is when we accept the current scenario, seeking the good at all times. We may cry, It's normal. But we're not going to stay in that negativity and that rebelliousness for long. We're going to bounce back quickly and say, okay, God knows better. Let us just seek the good. Feel the good. Visualize the good. And mold the good with all the resources we have at hand at all times. So the question for us today through Sabino is, am I reincarnated? Or am I just in a new body but still crystallized mentally, emotionally in a previous life, wasting this reincarnation? Kicking and screaming about everything, all the circumstances in life. That's something to think about. So, André Luiz had permission to approach Sabino's spirit and asked, Baron, why is there so much blood on your pathway? Were a lot of tears shed along its way? Now, listen to the answer of the spirit of that boy who is physically impaired, but spiritually completely responsive to the questioning. He answers, blood and tears, yes. I need a big dose of that for my undertakings. What conqueror does not have blood and tears at the bottom of his pyramid of fortune and political domination? Life is a system of battles in which humankind is divided into two opposing camps, one for those who conquer and one for those who are conquered. I'm a nobleman. My calling does not entail losing. Why should the suffering of the weak matter if death for them means rest and mercy? André Luiz disconnected himself from the mental field where Sabino was expressing his thoughts. And after a few moments during which Hilario conducted the same examination, Silas explained, as we can easily conclude, according to ordinary medical science, Sabino is merely a paralytic that has been hearing speech and mentally impaired since birth. For us, however, he is still dangerous prisoner, encaged in physical bones. But he's completely unaware of that fact for now. So great is the self-centeredness that still clouds his soul in a process of uncontrollable hypertrophy. His thirst for ill-gotten possessions and his virulent pride have perverted his inner life, fixating him in a dreadful maze of sinister delusions that have resulted in complete mental alienation as regards to time. The clock advances in the counting of the days, whereas he remains at a standstill inside the reminiscences where he believes that he's still a dominator on the earth, living inside the nightmare he has created for himself. And then, of course, André Luiz and Hilario, they ask, but what good does such suffering do? And then Silas explained, this is a case of lamentable frozen debt. Our poor, deplorably downfallen friend has committed many, many crimes on earth, and in the spirit realm as well as, and for more than 1,000 years, he has yielded again and again, proud and insensitive to the clause of criminality. From one lifetime to the next, he has done nothing but waste his physical resources, disturbing the societal landscapes in which the Lord has allowed him to live. Well, to cut it short, Silas is going to explain to us. For 1,000 years, Sabino has been in this mode. in that crystallization of self-centeredness, where we are eluded and we cannot see, and we give excuses like we're seeing nowadays. People who do something right and they justify that the little wrong that they do, oh well, it's needed, right? No, when something is right, it never hurts. It is always productive to everybody. In this case, they explain to us that Sabino has to be, for his own protection and for the protection of others, distant from areas in the spiritual realm where he would complicate even more the life of others as well, and complicate his life as well. So being disguised in a deformed body, Sabino is given a break from incurring more debts, while others are given a break and given an opportunity also to progress. And the mother, Pollyanna, so many lives, she was the partner inciting Sabino to commit those crimes. Now she is the ill mother who has to take care of him. So now we go back to the prayer, okay? And in the prayer, as beautiful as it is, we're gonna see the beautiful treatment, no matter the story on the behind the scenes. I think the main highlight of this chapter is to remind us that no matter what you do, of course we need to do, we're gonna suffer the consequences, action and reaction. But no matter what we do, we're always gonna have loving spirits investing on us, taking care of us, doing the best they can to propel us to the next progressing step. Isn't that beautiful? Now you're gonna feel the beauty of it all. For the good spirits, they don't judge us. They evaluate and they help us. And now Silas, André Luiz, and Hilario are asked to join forces, and Silas is going to pray to help that mother who has a cardiac disease but needs to live longer for her sake and the sake of Sabino's life, who needs to stay in the flesh reincarnated for a little while. Here's the prayer. Are you ready, friends? Yes? Shall we? Okay. Father of infinite goodness, you provide for the needs of the worm seemingly forgotten in the womb of the soil. You clothe nameless flowers, often giving them fragrance even in the slime of the marsh. Look mercifully upon us, for we have strayed far from your love. Especially, O righteous Father, have mercy on our defeated Pollyanna. Lord, she is no longer the woman eager for adventure and gold, ready to cast sludge and darkness onto the pathway of others, but an exhausted mother begging for new strength to bear her self-sacrifice. She is no longer the vain girl who used to laugh at her neighbor's torments, but just a poor beggar, unable to work, weeping from door to door as she begs for a piece of bread to feed herself and her tormented son. O Father, do not let her lose the blessing of a body at this moment on the redemptive road upon which she crawls. Grant her the resources she needs so that she does not break off her sublime experience. Through Christ, you gave us the divine revelation of suffering as the route for our return to your arms. Help her Renew her spent energies so that she does not perish before she finds the new light that prepares her heart for the ascent to glory eternal. Touched with profound faith, Scylla's voice moved us to unstoppable tears. Bluish scintillations hallowed his head, and as an answer from heaven, right there amid the wild vegetation of that isolated woodland, we saw, off in the distance and at different points, 5 flames quickly coming towards us. When they reached us, the flames changed into fellow spirits who greeted us joyfully. In a few minutes, imponderable energies of nature, combined with substances derived from medicinal plants, were brought to our patient, who inhaled them in long draughts. Soon Pollyanna was surprisingly improved, ready to retake her physical body for the necessary recovery. You, the rich of the earth, says André Louis to Pollyanna, she used to be the rich one and now experiencing the opposite. And the beauty, friends. Father of infinite goodness, do you limit God's goodness? Don't be the judge of your life, of people's lives. Only God knows. You need only to trust God's goodness and know that there is always a next opportunity. Nobody is less important in this life. God loves Jesus as he loves us equally. He equally loves us all, no matter if we are already more advanced or not. So we cannot despise anyone in this life. Of much of this enlightened prayer, there is here this beauty of this prayer that requests resources. Superior spirits don't take any action without asking for higher forces to help. We should constantly be prayerful and mindful of the blessings of life, even in the blessings in disguise, which we mean even in the things that we find most afflicting, there is a blessing. In this prayer, our dear friend Scylla says, through Christ, you gave us the divine revelation of suffering as the route for our return to your arms. Suffering is needed as a wake-up call. We don't need to suffer, but we suffer because we are yet to understand so many things. So as Louise Hay used to say, before we shoo away our pain, our adversity, let us ask, what am I yet to learn in this scenario? And ask for illumination. Ask for the lesson to be taken home, the home of our hearts, so we can move to the next lesson. Chico Xavier himself, as we began talking about him at the very beginning, Chico Xavier himself never had an easy life. When walking at the farm, the Fazenda Modelo, the model farm where he used to work, where he psychographed Paul and Stephen, I asked a historian, John Harley, who was there. I asked, so it's amazing that Chico Xavier was in such a beautiful landscape and scenario when he was living here. And the historian turned to me saying, to Carlos and I, saying, actually, he suffered quite a lot. First, because people didn't understand. Things were rough. He actually suffered much. We go there, visit, and we see the beauty of his legacy. But he turned the rough scenario of that life, the rural life of Pedro Leopoldo, into illuminated messages for all of us. A model for you and I. Wherever you are, you're being called to plant, sow the good, so we can transform the mud, the roughness, the desert of the places where we are into beautiful gardens for immortality. For now, with Sabino and Poliana, we're being called to truly reincarnate tonight. Asking this question, am I truly reincarnated? And opening ourselves to the new. Because when we open to the new, we're expanding ourselves into this reincarnation, so we no longer waste time. Like Sabino, who was still at a standstill, stuck mentally in a life previous to that one. Betsy's kindly asking, will Sabino progress a little bit during his time on Earth? Well, not that he's going to progress. No, Betsy. He's not going to progress because he's completely unaware of himself. But he's going to be given a break. He is imprisoned in the body to avoid greater mistakes. Andre Luis and Hilario asked if he couldn't be imprisoned in the afterlife. He could. But the problem is he would be interacting with others and creating more mistakes. So being reincarnated in a caged body, imprisoned body, he would make less mistakes. Until one day he would wake up tired, longing for improvement and never getting there. And in repentance, he's going to get to another level. Let's not forget about this. In the book Heaven and Hell by Kardec, and in this chapter as well, we learn that repentance is the first step to change, to improvement. Sabino is not repentant yet. He's still justifying his misdeeds, his posture before life, which is still selfish, as André Luiz describes, self-centered, arrogant, and cruel. For now, we're being invited to feel the presence of the good spirits in our lives, who are trying hard to help us. And it is on us to be willing and easy on their hands, moving forward, always forward, so we can no longer stay stagnated in the illusions of life. Shall we, friends, briefly pray inside of our hearts, saying, thank you, God, for this lesson that reminds us and teaches us so much about our true selves. May we be inspired by Sila's lesson and therapy and open ourselves to the new, leaving the comfort zone so we can improve ourselves and live a more fully reincarnated life on earth. We want to let go of the past and begin anew. Be better. Be somebody whom we are yet to discover. Please help us reinvent ourselves in ways that are beneficial to everyone with no exception. We thank you so much for Chico Xavier and his beautiful, wonderful, loving legacy. A loving man who came before us to show us that you, dear Jesus, is really the pathway to God. Thank you so much, and so be it. This is it, my friends, for today. Tomorrow, when we come back, we're going to study another illuminated prayer in a beautiful context. For now, let us keep feeling the good of the loving spirits who are ceaseless in their efforts to do the good towards us. Thank you, friends. A big hug to you. Until tomorrow, God willing.